Marta Vieira da Silva is one of history's greatest footballers. Compact and fast, Marta has filled multiple attacking positions with aplomb. She's just as likely to beat defenders with her pace as she is to embarrass them with staggering, stylish improvisation. And once she shakes free, Marta has always been able to blast powerful, precise left-footed shots. At her best, Marta played nearly without flaw, and it shows in her accomplishments. Throughout her itinerant club career, she collected copious trophies and individual honors. And while representing her native country of Brazil, Marta spent a whole era on top of the world. She exploded as the top scorer and top overall player at the 2007 World Cup and hardly slowed thereafter, breaking a record with 17 career World Cup goals. For her continued excellence, Marta owned a whole run of FIFA World Player of the Year honors and carried that respect into her 30s. Marta blessed her birthplace with elite production and leadership for the better part of 2 decades and 5 Women's World Cups. Yet she and her fellow Brazilians have never hoisted the trophy. Why? What underlying circumstances and what specific events stopped this great team and its greatest player from winning a World Cup? The first important thing to understand is that Brazil has long been a soccer incubator, a nation that invests heavily in the development of great players and the viability of great teams, for men. For Brazilian girls and women, it's a different story. Enthusiasm for women's soccer grew in the early 20th century, but in 1941, dictator Getúlio Vargas crushed that progress in an effort to police women's bodies and socialization. A new law prohibited female Brazilians from playing soccer and other so-called violent sports, even just for fun. The ban didn't end until 1979, after years of protest and civil disobedience. Though the ban was lifted, the misogyny and homophobia underpinning it persist. Soccer-playing girls and women have received nowhere near the official support enjoyed by the men's game. Sparse grassroots investment, minimal professional opportunity, and outright disrespect from powerful custodians of the National Confederation. Brazil did not provide Marta much of a path, so she had to blaze her own. From kicking homemade soccer balls around her neighborhood, to standing out among boys as a teenager, to a multi-day bus ride for her first tryout, to becoming perhaps the best ever to play the women's game. Marta became an icon and a winner in spite of, not because of, a Brazilian women's football infrastructure. The same system that abandoned countless other talents who might have otherwise helped her win a World Cup. Keep that in mind as we examine how close Marta and company came in each of 5 tournaments. Brazil broke through to its first Women's World Cup knockout stage at the 1999 tournament in the United States, where they finished 3rd. And they barely got paid for it, and their matches weren't televised live back home. Anyway, Brazil's hopes of improving upon that finish in 2003 depended on a squad with an average age of 22, the youngest in the competition. Katia, the striker, was still in her prime, but gone were team captain Elane and heroic top scorer Sisi. Star forward Pratinha was out after knee surgery. In came a flood of youth, including Marta, a starter at just 17 years old. Those baby Brazilians won their group, thanks in large part to their upset of Norway, a surprise drubbing that included this long run and finish from Daniela, plus Marta getting a rebound onto her left foot to score her second goal of the tournament. The Norwegians were blown away by Brazil's youth and speed in a 4-1 defeat. But Brazil's inexperience perhaps caught up to them in a knockout stage matchup with Sweden, characterized more by fouling and frustration than by the effective attacking they'd shown prior. Marta left an imprint on the match. After this victorious Svensson header put Sweden up 1-0, the 17-year-old got tripped up by the keeper and drew a penalty. Cool as ice, she tied the match before half with a steely penalty kick. One of several unnecessary Brazilian fouls in the second half gave Sweden this free kick that ultimately won it. Brazil had their opportunities, and expected a crucial one in the closing moments when Katia got taken down before she could finish Marta's gorgeous lead pass into the box. But to Katja's dismay, no call came of it, and Sweden held on to win 2-1. So Brazil fell well short of their '99 success, but still hoped their performance would inspire more growth in the national women's game. At least some people at home got to see it this time. If nothing else, the young Marta gave Brazil a lot of potential. By the next World Cup, that potential would be fully realized. Even before the 2007 World Cup, Marta was on top of the world. The 21-year-old had been starring for a Swedish club team. She was reigning FIFA World Player of the Year. And during the summer, she'd led Brazil to utter dominance and a gold medal in front of their home crowd at the '07 Pan American Games. She'd been compared to Pelé, the god of Brazilian soccer, and Pelé himself was into it. At that year's World Cup in China, Marta led her side to great things. Brazil cruised through group play and survived a quarterfinal scare from Australia thanks to Marta's penalty kick and Cristiane's deciding goal in the second half. In the semifinal, they met the United States, a team on a 51-match win streak. Brazil dealt those mighty Americans their worst loss ever, just destroyed them. Marta's goal in the 27th minute put Brazil up 2-0. Up 3-0 in the 79th minute, Marta iced the cake with one of her most spectacular inventions. This elusive back heel and spin move, a left-to-right ankle breaker, and an off-footed finish past Brianna Scurry. Brazil made its first ever Women's World Cup final, led by a 21-year-old with 7 goals in their 5 matches. Their opponent would be a problem. Led by striker Birgit Prince and fortified by goalkeeper Nadine Angerer, Germany had shut out all their tournament opponents, beginning with an 11-0 humiliation of Argentina. Scoring against Germany, let alone beating them, would require a miracle. The opportunities materialized, but the miracles proved just out of reach. Brazil controlled the ball to no avail against that wall of a German defense, though this left-footed wallop from Daniela came just inches away from doing the trick in the 24th minute. Her header off the rebound missed by several more inches. Following dual clean sheets in the first half, Prince got way too open for a right-footed strike in the 56th minute. Soon thereafter, this clear penalty gave Marta the chance to equalize. Angerer remembered how the Brazilian had gone right against Australia and guessed she would go left this time. She guessed correctly. Germany proved impenetrable. Their 2-0 victory in the final extended a record-setting stretch with no goals conceded, and Marta's squad went home bruised but proud runners-up. They also went home fed up. Yes, it was Germany who toppled the Brazilians in '07, but they'd faced more than enough obstacles from their own executive leadership. After pleading for support at the medal ceremony, the whole squad signed a letter sent to the Brazilian Federation and published in Brazilian newspapers that listed demands. Increase their traveling stipend, restore the basic amenities a men's team would never go without, schedule more matches, and most of all, money. Money reflective of their success, paid on time for once. Over the next 4 years, Marta's legend only grew. She returned from playing in Sweden to bounce between club teams at home and in the US. Her time with the Brazilian side Santos, alongside other national team stars, was particularly successful. But like so many of Marta's club teams, the Santos women's program eventually folded. They wanted to save money in hopes of keeping Neymar for the men's side. Nevertheless, Marta kept racking up awards and at age 25 led the national team into the 2011 Germany World Cup and cleaned through the group stage. In the quarterfinal, they met a familiar opponent that, despite their rocky lead-up to this match, still figured to be tournament favorites, the United States. The US went up instantly, as Shannon Box's threatening cross to Abby Wambach stirred up this Brazilian-owned goal. But thanks to officiating, Brazil stuck around. This takedown of Marta got Rachel Buehler sent off. Hope Solo actually saved the ensuing Cristiane penalty kick, but drew an iffy whistle for maybe stepping off her line and then a card for complaining. Marta took the redo penalty kick and scored. The match stayed level through 90 minutes, but in extra time, Marta struck again. The assist, maybe offside. The goal, absolute magic. well out of Solo's reach.
Brazil lead! Marta!
Brazil had the upset all but wrapped until one of the latest and greatest goals in American soccer history. Moments before the final whistle, Megan Rapinoe arced a long, heat-seeking pass over the Brazilian defense to find Wambach's forehead for a flying equalizer. In penalty kicks, Solo redeemed herself with a save, and Ali Krieger sealed Brazil's heartbreak. It was a heartbreak Marta saw coming. Even before the 2011 tournament, she sounded disillusioned, saying that despite the players' efforts and protests, Brazil was even less prepared than their underserved 2007 squad. They had the talent, but did indeed prove to be a step behind the United States when push came to shove. It didn't get better. The talent remained, even as Marta began to slow, but the federation maintained its disregard. Vidal, a manager with no experience in the women's game and only modest success in the men's game, took over in 2014 and did little to improve the team's preparation. During the 2015 World Cup, a Brazilian women's soccer executive seemed less interested in Marta once again leading her team to the top of their group than he was in the players wearing makeup and short shorts. Brazil flamed out early in the knockout stage against Australia, but still no productive change was made for the 2016 Olympics, where Marta's squad finished just 4th in their home country. After that disappointment, Brazilian players were pleased to get their first female manager, Emily Lima, only to see Lima replaced a year later by Vidal. The notoriously unimaginative coach needed a job. The Brazilian women's soccer community protested. The firing, the years of unmet demands, and the corruption. Several players, including the legendary Cristiane, abruptly announced their retirements. The federation's response proved to be little more than empty gestures. And it got worse. Jair Bolsonaro, an open misogynist and homophobe, became Brazil's president in 2019 and promptly disbanded the ministry overseeing sports. A clear blow to women's players who depend on government subsidies in lieu of sufficient pro contracts. Brazil entered the 2019 World Cup discouraged, with a string of losses in their wake. Their performance would finally be televised live on Brazil's biggest TV channel, but it would once again compete with the men's Copa America tournament, which was scheduled at the same time. Players once again convened from all over the world, since professional teams in Brazil still paid well short of a living wage. Marta had once contributed to the youngest side at the 2003 tournament. Now she was 33, an icon, and leading the second oldest squad in France for this World Cup. The 41-year-old Formiga was making her 7th World Cup appearance. An unretired Cristiane would lead the team's scoring. Marta scored 2 penalties to lead Brazil out of the group stage, but she and her teammates were hurting. Veterans like Marta, Formiga, and Cristiane all had nagging injuries. Several younger players had been ruled out entirely. Nevertheless, Brazil pushed the host nation, France, to extra time in a VAR-filled round of 16 match. Moments before the halfway point of that extra time, Brazil's Debinha slipped a potential winning goal past France's keeper, but Gria Mbakbati threw herself in the line of fire at the last possible moment. And French captain Amandine Henry avoided penalties by punching home a long free kick in the second half of extra time. Marta was knocked out of her 5th World Cup. She saw her team slipping as its stars aged, unreplenished because the country still wasn't feeding the system. In an impassioned post-game speech broadcast live all over the world, she pleaded with Brazilian girls to fight against the tide, to conserve women's soccer, however hard and unfair it might be.
Não vai ter uma Formiga para sempre, não vai ter uma Marta para sempre, não vai ter uma Cristiane. E o futebol feminino depende de vocês para sobreviver. Então pense nisso, valorize mais. Chore no começo para sorrir no fim.
And at least the next generation of Brazilians has Marta to look up to, a role model the legend herself never had. At least they will have some grassroots, some organizations, some people with some power looking out for their best interests. Because the story of Marta shows that even a self-made soccer god isn't enough to win a World Cup. Great national teams grow because young talents can comfortably devote their livelihoods to soccer. They win because those talents are well treated, well compensated, and furnished with the best possible planning and a large audience. So yes, Marta never won a World Cup for Brazil, but Marta did not fail Brazil. She and her star teammates gave their nation unbelievable passion and skill for the better part of 2 decades, often without thanks. Marta never won a World Cup for Brazil because Brazil failed Marta. Thanks a lot for watching Untitled. If you want to know more about what happened in that 2011 World Cup, here's a rewinder. And if you're here for Brazilian soccer, I have a great beef history for you.